AI automation is dead. Well, not dead, but the way most people think about it is. I've been building and selling AI solutions for months, and even I had to stop and pay attention when the new Claude Code updates dropped. And honestly, once I saw what you can do, I haven't looked back since. So in this video, I'm gonna give you the 80-20 that you actually need to go from an idea to a fully deployed agentic workflow that you can use for yourself or for your clients. I'll also give you my framework that I used to build 10 times faster without training my Claude Code limit in one day. But you should watch this video even if you're not building agentic workflows yet. And it's because this is where the entire AI automation space is headed. So treat this video as your head start. And essentially this is what we're going to be building today. So it's going to be a daily newsletter system that will run on schedule every day, and it will collect data from different places in Reddit, and it will filter for the most recent information. So we'll grab information from the last 24 hours. We'll then use artificial intelligence to summarize and format all of this into a newsletter that will be sent to us every single day through Gmail probably. So this is the overview. And to actually make it happen, there are two things that we're going to need. First one is Visual Studio Code. So if you head over to this website, I'll leave a link to it in the description. And then you have to download the Visual Studio Code for your operating system and go through the setup process. And the second thing that we're going to need is going to be Claude Code itself. Now, in order to access that, you're going to have to be at least on the Pro plan, which is $17 a month. And that gives you plenty of Claude Code usage to start with. But you might soon find that that's not going to be enough, and then you're going to have to upgrade to the Max plan. But that's totally fine. It's well worth it, I'm telling you. But the Pro plan is more than enough for you to get started. And so once you download Visual Studio Code, this is the screen that you're going to see. And it's just a welcome screen with a bunch of information. And it might look a bit complex at first, but don't worry, I'll walk you through exactly what you need to know from this. So let me just close this welcome screen. And basically anything that you create inside of Visual Studio Code is going to live inside of folders on your PC. So the first step is to open up a folder. So I'll head over to File and then Open Folder. And then let me just find the one I've created previously. So I've got it in my documents, and it's called Agentic Demo. So let's select this one, and it's going to open up a folder. And over on the left, you've got Explorer, and this is where all of the files are going to be stored. So all of the prompts, all of the files we upload, and anything else. And now that we have Visual Studio Code set up, we need to connect Claude Code to it. And for this, if you head over to Extensions on the left, and then you have to search for Claude Code. I've actually got it right here. So if I click on it, you'll see an option to install. And if you do that, it might take a minute or two to install. You'll have to connect to your Anthropic account. And then once you do that, if we go back to our Explorer and then close this, and then if you click on this button here on the right, you'll see the chat window pop up, and then you'll have an option to select Claude Code on the right here. And this is where we can chat to Claude. And that window might look familiar to you. It looks very similar to the chat box that you get with ChatGPT or Gemini. And at the bottom, you've got some more options here. And if you click on the plus button, you'll have an option to do things like upload files, add context. And this one will show you some more options, but I won't get into those in this video. And this one right here is probably the most important. So this is where we can select a mode for our Claude. So by default, you'll have 3 modes to select from. You'll have ask before edits. You also have edit automatically, and as well as the plan mode. And they kind of work in the way that it says here. So this one will, for example, get Claude to ask you before it goes ahead and makes any edits. This one will just edit automatically. But you can see that I've also got the bypass permissions mode here, and that allows Claude to just basically go ahead and do all the work without asking you anything. It will still ask you for things like API keys, for example, but you won't have to just hit here and allow every command run. It will just do it all for you. So it's amazing if you just want Claude to go ahead and do its work while you're doing something else. But to access that, you actually have to go to the settings and then enable it. So if you click on the settings button and then settings again, here you just have to search for Claude, and then it's this option right here. So Claude Code allow dangerous escape permissions. So it sounds obviously dangerous, but it just does exactly what I said. So it'll just let Claude do its own thing. So you won't have to just sit there and accept all the commands. And then all you have to do is just tick this box, and then the bypass permissions options will show. So let me just close this. So just to recap what we've covered so far, over on the left, we've got Explorer, which is where all the files are going to live. And over on the right, we've got a window to chat with Claude. And the whole middle section here is where we then going to be able to preview all the files that we create. So all the prompts, all the images even. And the first step of building anything with something like Claude Code is always going to be the Claude.md file. And what that is basically like a master prompt or a set of instructions that will tell Claude exactly what to do and what steps to take. And I've actually got a prompt prepared, and here it is. It's quite comprehensive. You're welcome to read through it if you want. I'll leave I'll leave a link to it in the description so you can access it and use it yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control A and then Control C, and then let's go back over to VS Code. And then we don't have any files here yet. So what I'm going to do is click on this button here to create a new file, and I'm going to call it Claude.md. And by the way, MD just stands for Markdown, and it's just a way to represent text. So if I do Control V, you'll see that I've got those hashtags here, for example. Those represent headings, and I've got some more kind of text formatting options here, like this, for example. So it's just a way to represent the prompt to AI. That's all it is. And if you click on this little preview icon here, this is what this prompt actually looks like to AI. So I've got those headings, lists, and all the other things. And then let's do Control S. Make sure that you always save your files when you're working on them. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to leave it as ask before edit, and let's just say initialize. So this will just kickstart the whole prompt. So AI is now going to go ahead and read the instructions. And as you can see, it's asking us to allow to run this command. So let me just click yes. And this is what happens when you have the ask before edit selected. It will do this pretty much every single time. So you have to sit there and accept every single command. So what Claude has done now is it went ahead and created some folders for us. So TMP, that is going to be like a temporary folder for all the temporary stuff. Got the scripts, SOPs, and .env. And this is where all the API keys are going to be stored. So what you can do now is actually go ahead and describe what you want to create in natural language. So let me do that right now. I'd like to create a workflow that will produce a daily newsletter with all the recent advancements in AI, and it will find the information on Reddit using Reddit RSS. Okay, awesome. Now that we have this, let me select the bypass permissions, and then let's send that off. So what's going to happen right now is Claude is going to go ahead and figure out what is the best approach to put together a workflow like this. And it'll probably ask us some questions along the way, but let's see what it can come up with. And you can always just open those thinking sections here to kind of see in more detail what Claude is thinking about or the process that is going through. So it's actually went ahead and divided that into phases, which is cool, which is exactly what I've got specified in the prompt itself. So let me close this now. And as it's doing that, you'll see some weird words show up here. So manifesting, I'm not even going to try and read that. Anyway, that just means that Claude is working on a task. Right, so it looks like it's finished, and there are some things for us to do here. And from all of this, the most important part is going to be the .env, and this is where we have to provide all the API keys, secrets, and all that. So let me go ahead and do that quickly right now. Actually, before that, let me just copy this and then come over to my .env, and then let's paste it right here. And cool, so let me just delete the comments. We don't need those here. Awesome, so let's head to Anthropic API platform, and this is what it looks like. I'm gonna leave all the links in the description so you can access everything. And as you can see, I'm barely using it. I've got like 3 cents spent on this account. It's crazy. Right, anyway, let's create a key in the top right, and then that can be a default, and then let's call it agentic demo. So I'll just click add. And then this is my API key. So let me copy it and head back over to VS Code. And then let's paste it right here. Awesome. And let's do the same with Perplexity. So let's close this, go to Perplexity, generate API key, and then call that agentic demo as well. I've read all the agreements, of course. And let's copy this one. So I'm going to pop that one here. Perplexity API key, boom. And we need the Gmail sender address, so that can be just my Gmail, so why not? And recipients, that can be mine as well, it doesn't really matter for this one. Cool, so now we need client ID and client secret. And to get those, you're gonna have to head over to Google Cloud Console and create a new project. So I am in NA10, so let me just click on this one here. and then new project. And I'm gonna call it, again, agentic demo. I'll click create. And once it's created, let me make sure that it's actually selected. So let me click here and then go to agentic demo. And right now what we have to do is allow Gmail API. So if I open the menu on the left and then head over to APIs and services in the library, this is where I can then search for the APIs I want. So let me type Gmail and then Gmail API. And this is where we can enable it like that. It might take a second to load, so just give it a moment. And the next step is to go to OAuth consent screen. And then let's go to data access. And then let's click on get started. So for app name, that can be agentic as well. Doesn't really matter. Support email, I'm just going to select my email. Then next. So this one is going to have to be external. And contact information, again, that can be just my Gmail. That's fine. And then I'll click on agree and continue and then create. So now we can head over to data access. And this is where we'll specify the scope for what we want this app to be able to do. So I'll click add or remove scopes. And then from here, you can add all the ones that you think are necessary. But for this example, I'm just going to add all of them. It's probably not the most secure way of doing it, but hey, let's do it. And then have to scroll all the way down on this and then save. Cool, so now that we have that, let me head over to clients. So this is going to be the last step of setting this up. So let me click create client and then application type. That's going to have to be a desktop app. And let me just click create. And here we have our client ID and the client secret. So let me copy this one and go back over to VS Code and then paste that here. And then do the same with client secret. So go back here, click on copy, and then go back to VS Code and then paste it right here. So now that we have this, let me do Control S to save it. And let's say I filled out all the relevant fields in .env, except for the refresh token. Can you go ahead and do all the rest of the steps for me? I know I'm probably being lazy, but we've got Claude Code for a reason, right? So let's see what it does. And before I do anything else, let me just clear this conversation. So I'm just type /clear, and that will start up a new conversation. And I do this because those models get less smart the longer you talk to them. So it's always a good idea to just split this process up in multiple conversations. So now that we have all the passwords in place, let me carry on the process of setting up the workflow. So let's just say you've now got all the passwords and all the access. So carry on, as simple as that. So send that off. Right, so it went ahead and ran the workflow end to end, and looks like it found some pretty cool news. So it's going to ask us to go ahead and send it. And let's just say, go ahead, brother. I don't know why I just called it brother. Anyway, that's exactly what so many hours building with Claude Code does to you guys. So be careful, I guess. Okay, it looks like the newsletter has been sent to my email. So let's check my inbox and take a look at this, guys. I must say, for the lack of instructions I actually gave it, that looks pretty impressive. I'm not a fan of the header here. I feel like it could be done in a different way. But take a look at those colors here. We've got kind of news segregated by those types here, and it even got where the news was coming from. So we've got Reddit Singularity, and we've got the summary here, as well as sources. Let me just open this one to make sure that it's actually, there you go. So it's actual website. It didn't hallucinate any of this. So that's a good sign. And we've got the summary here, and even a link to Reddit, it seems like. There you go. So that's awesome. And that is a good piece of newsletter to receive every day. And I love how it's formatted. And it got the date right, which is always a bonus. So now that we have everything connected and we verified that it's actually working, what would normally happen at this stage is you would go ahead and just test the workflow as much as possible. You'll try to break it, try to, give it different instructions, different questions. And the reason why is because you want your workflow to be ready for anything, basically. Whether you're building that for your own business or for clients, you just want to make sure that you cover every single possible thing that might go wrong. And at this point, if there were any errors, issues with the connection, APIs, or anything, Claude will pick that up and fix that for you so that before it's deployed, the workflow is kind of ready to go no matter what happens. And that takes me on to the final step, which is the deployment itself. Normally, we would obviously create an automation in something like NA10 or Make, and we would spend hours putting together the workflow, troubleshooting, brainstorming of how it could be done better. And that kind of skips the entire process. But the one thing that we miss is actual deployment. And for that, we use a tool called Modal. Now, of course, there are many more solutions out there that will do exactly the same thing, but I just found Modal to be pretty reliable, and it's very cheap as well. You get $5 of credits when you get started, and you can have $30 of free credits when you connect a payment method. And given how cheap it is, that will probably last you a lifetime at least. So in terms of how to actually connect it, when you create an account, you'll see this option here, create your first app, and ask you to download and configure the Python client. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy those two commands and go back to VS Code. And from here, you can just say something like, okay, now I need you to import this workflow into Modal. Start with these, please. So let me just paste those two commands and off it goes. So again, now it's going to go ahead and do some research, run some commands. And as you can see, I've got Modal 1.3.4 installed. I must have done it before, but if it's the first time you're doing it, then at this point it will be installed. And as you can see here, it took me straight to the website where I can create a token. So let me do that right now. Let me authorize. And just like that, API token has been created. That was a bit simpler than the way I've done it first time, but anyway. So now that we have everything connected, the next step is to build a Modal app. So let's just say, go ahead. And this is a good example here of how Claude is able to deal with errors. So it found some error with Modal and went ahead and tried to fix it, and it ran a few extra commands, and then finally it got deployed. So from what I see here, it's currently set up to run daily at 7 a.m. UTC. And I can also trigger it manually using this command here. And probably most importantly, secrets are securely stored in Modal and not in code, which is what we want. We don't want our secrets to end up in code somewhere on GitHub or anything else. So let's hop back over to Modal, and you can see that under my apps, I've got the Run Newsletter app here. And if I open this up, you'll have all the details here. So the next run is in 17 hours. I can always select to run this now, and that will just trigger the automation again. And here's where I'll be able to see the function calls. So every time, obviously, we run the automation, we'll see all the details here. And then you can use, for example, this button to pause the automation. So if you don't want the emails to be sent, you can click on pause, and that will just pause the automation completely. So let's say you've deployed an app, and now you want to amend the schedule. What you have to do is head back over to VS Code and then just ask Claude to do it. So can you amend the schedule to run the automation at 9 a.m. UTC instead? So as you can see, it went back to the code and it amended the schedule, and then it redeployed the app to Modal. So if I go back to Modal and then refresh my screen, I should see the new schedule. There you go. I didn't even have to refresh the screen. So right now we're going to get an email at 9 a.m. UTC every single day. So just to recap, now you've seen the whole process of building an app with Claude Code and then deploying it on the web using Modal. So that gives you the 80-20 that you need to get out there and start using Claude Code for your own business use cases or for your clients. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want more videos like this, because I've got a few more plans that I can record. So let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.